All right, welcome, guys. Thank you for coming in this week's episode of Two Generic. This week it is one generic white guy, not just two generic white guys as usual. You just have me. It's Ritchie's birthday, and shout out to him. I believe this is his. I think. I think this is his 24th birthday. So this is Ritchie going into his Mamba year. So shout out to Ritchie and his Mamba year. And hey, spending time with mom today. So that's why he couldn't make it on there. So he's hanging out with our mother. We're brothers, if you guys don't know. Um, and I moved to Cali, so they're back home celebrating his birthday. I'm sending gifts and sending love and wishes. But the show goes on. So we're going to talk about three things today. It's probably going to be a shorter show. Just going to kind of wrap up through some things. We talked a lot about UFC 305, and I kind of want to go back and really rehash UFC 305 because typically I'm on the money with picks. This is proven. I don't even have to just say like, oh, I pick over 50%. I do. You know, if you go back, you watch the shows, or if you have watched the shows in the past, you already know the answer to that. Like, well, I was 11 for 12 2 weekends ago. I think I was 9 for 12 last weekend, and then this weekend was rough. Now, I could take you down the rabbit hole. We could cover a little UFC. Then we go to our main topics, which you all know is basketball. But for today and for right now, let's talk about last night. So it started off. Oh my God, I can't believe this guy Nickel. He got him down so fast. And I was like, okay, Nickel's moving. You know, he's looking aggressive. Then boom, gets tapped out. Where was a really good fight? This fight was a sleeper. I actually thought it was gonna be pumped. Alex Reyes is Dominic Reyes' little brother, and he ended up taking the L here. 3-round decision goes to the judges. Um, there was a fight that was so badly judged that the judge was fired midway through the event. It was disgusting. Like the amount of, problems we have with Vegas and gambling and just rigging fights and all this stuff, like it was very evident last night, you know? And I just think that people realized it, people called it out for what it really was, and we seen it. I believe the guy's name was Howie Booth. Howie Booth. I texted Richie about this last night because we're always saying like there's always one judge that's just like way out there, but this guy actually someone did all the research on Twitter and found out that I guess 1/6 of the time more than anybody else, so like 20 more percent of the time he is the outlier in decisions, which is just compared to the rest of the judges. You know, I'm not the one who did this research. It's on Twitter. I retweeted. It's on my timeline if you guys want to check it out. Fact check me. But I believe it was like 16.7%, something like that, of this guy being a true outlier, and he is the most outlier judge that there is. And it had everybody pissed. I mean, it had me pissed. Yeah. And I'll read my group chat real quick. And this was a message from it. Whatever judge scored 30-27 to Ivasa needs federal prison time. But this is serious. Oh man, I didn't realize it wasn't pixelated. Sorry guys. It was a little it's a little messed up on here. Comment and let me know if the screen is ever messed up or blurry or needs to be zoomed in. Let me know. But here it is. The main card, and it was tied to Ivasa versus Rosenstrike. So Rosenstrike was honestly busting tied to Ivasa's ass. He couldn't do anything. We already know Jarginho Rosenstrike is a kickboxer. That's what he does. He doesn't really wrestle. You know, he wants to point fight. As big as he is, as strong as he is, he's a point fighter. He's got some pretty good technique, and Tai Tuivasa couldn't really break it. You know, like Tai Tuivasa is just a brawler. He's gonna go out there swinging. He's super fucking strong, but doesn't really have too much technical skill. He's just super strong. But Rosenstrike, just death by 1,000 cuts. And if you really look at it, Look at this. Total strikes, almost 200, and he lands almost 100 to tie Tuivasa's 126-37. So he's landing 29%, about a quarter of all his strikes, and he's landing half of all his strikes. That tells you right there, this guy is a technician. 50% versus 25%. That's double the percentage. So Rosenstrike lands double the hits, and somehow a judge at the end of the fight said Tai Tuivasa won 30-27, which means round one, Tai won 10-9 the round. Round two, 10-9. Round three, 10-9. So you're telling me he won 10-9 every round and only landed 25% of his hits while getting hit 50% of the time and having blood all over his face. It was so egregious and so disgusting that, like, this isn't, the only bad decision of the night prior to Howie Long, like he's the NFL player. I think it's Howie Booth. Howie Booth. Yeah, his decisions were terrible. This one was obvious and it was just egregious, Like, I know Tai Tuivasa is from Australia, New Zealand, that area, and that's where this was, Perth in Australia. I know there's some home cooking, but you can't make it this obvious. There's people that put money on the line. And that's why, my friend in the group chat saying this guy deserves federal prison. How do you feel if you put $20 on Rosenstrike and he won? And then Tai Tuivasa wins the match because of Howie Booth, potentially, let's say. How slighted would you feel? You just got robbed in broad daylight. That's criminal. And I think that it truly is criminal. Like, this guy should be federally investigated and we figure out what the hell was going on, where he's seen a guy land 30 punches in 3 rounds while getting hit 100 times. And he thought that guy won who threw 30 punches or landed 30 punches. Like, it's ridiculous to me. It really is. And I hope it gets dealt with. And it looks like it will. Hooker versus Gamrot. I was so wrong about this card. As I was saying, I'm typically pretty right. I'm pretty correct on these things, and I have over 50% success rate almost every single card. And I say almost because a card like this comes up, which forces me to have a damn near, like, it's below 50% this time. I knew Leach was done because he had so much surgeries, and Paredes is very lanky, very strong. And that's what happened. He slept Leach. I couldn't believe it. Nobody sleeps Leach. No one has ever knocked out the Leach. But this is 40-year-old Leach. This isn't the same Leach of before. You know what I'm saying? He took 3 years off. He looks great. Looks like $1 million. He really does. Ain't nobody with a body like Leach in the UFC. But Paredes, too lanky, too fast, too young, too hungry. That's the thing with young fighters. They're ambitious. They find new ways. They take chances. They don't fall in the same traps and get lazy and lethargic and start making old mistakes. And Paredes is on a roll right now, but let's see how far he could go. But absolutely incredible. As you see, Leach still threw more strikes, 111 to 84, but the accuracy in which he threw these strikes, 65% to 36%, almost double again. And I think if you really look at accuracy, it'll show you who won that fight, typically. As we've seen with this, inaccurate, 29% loss. Inaccurate, 36% loss. Let's see with this one. Hooker, by hook or crook, Dan Hooker won. But the thing is here, is I do see where, if you look at the stats, Gamrot should have won, right? He has 15 takedowns, which were insane. He couldn't keep Hooker down. There's a difference between when Hooker gets taken down and he can't do shit. But Gamrot couldn't posture up and couldn't really, like, just deliver from the top position. And that was the main issue with this fight. He got caught a couple times too and looked a little wobbled. And I think that's what swayed the judges a little, because Gamrot, to me, I said before the fight, I think he should have won. During the fight, it definitely looked like Hooker was the better fighter at the time. And I'll say that 100%. It was really weird with Gamrot. He's excuse me, guys. Gamrot slowed down a lot. He just didn't look like that same Gamrot, even though he was getting 15 takedowns in 3 rounds. It just didn't feel like he had that same dominance, that same explosion. And to where we've seen Dan Hooker look a little odd in the lower weight classes. He dropped down for a little bit. He comes back up to 155, where I think he looks a lot better at 155 than 145. And just has a little resurgence. So shout out to Dan Hooker. He really pulled that one out. He's from Australia. And hey, some home cooking, But he did deserve it. I would say he won 51% of that fight. It was close. I would give it to him. If anything, you could have gave it a draw because 15 takedowns is egregious. You should not be getting takedown 15 times or attempted takedown 15 times, taking down actually 5. But still, Tai Tuivasa, they tried to give him some home cooking. One judge did. Hooker won that. Kai France. This one was crazy, man. He caught Usyk lacking, bro. Lacking. He went out there fast and just full of might. And that's what Kai France is. That's his nickname. Don't blink. Don't blink. That's the sign right there. And then the main event, which, it was highly anticipated. I waited about a year for this fight because the last time we really thought this fight was going to happen is when Israel Adesanya was in the middle of the cage, lambasting Dricus Duplessis with a bunch of words that we cannot say on stream. And that kind of brought some tension that people didn't really know where it would go. That type of tension is weird. It could go into the fans. It could go into the crowd. Fans fighting now. It could turn into a brawl. It was the racial tensions were very high. So they let it cool off for a little bit. And then they brought the fight back. But Izzy, he didn't let that fire burn out. His was still burning red hot. He was at the press conference. He cried. Then he talked about, I could be a grown man crying, still beat your ass. And he got choked out in the 4th. I did say this fight was not going to go to the judges. It was just that type of animosity. You know what I'm saying? Like, they both hate each other or, dislike each other, whatever term you want to use. They're not best buddies, and we know that. The chemistry wasn't there. They didn't like each other. They wanted to punch each other in the face. They wanted to prove each other wrong. And Dracus proved Izzy wrong. Dracus is the king of Africa. And he's the first person to ever bring a belt back to Africa because he actually lives there. And it was this big, argument and kind of not a philosophical argument, but like, he's a white guy talking about the first African champ. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really don't have to explain more. And he's from South Africa. And the apartheid and everything that has been going on in South Africa in the past 10 to 15 years, there's racial division. There's different things that went on in the past 10 to 15 years, if you're unaware. And I think the UFC was very aware of it and wanted to go about this the right way and didn't want people calling each other, words, racially derogatory words to each other and everything else. It's very weird. It's a very weird situation to be in. But all in all, it's a fact. Kamaru Usman, yes, Nigerian descent, is not necessarily, from Nigeria and didn't bring the belt to Nigeria. He lives in the United States. He grew up in the United States. He went to college in the United States. He went to high school in the United States. You know what I'm saying? His nickname is Marty. Kamaru Usman's real name is not real name, but nickname. Everyone all his friends, they call him Marty. Like he's American. Almost with Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, obviously born in, I believe, Cameroon or the Congo. Fuck, I hate that. My God, but I barely know European countries, so this is just a lack of world knowledge. But Francis Ngannou then comes over here and he fights out of a gym. He doesn't reside in Africa. And that's where this whole thing comes. And it's just, that's why, this whole conversation is eggshells because they had to extend it for another year because of what happened in the ring and everything that kind of was surrounding it, all the media. So I just want to paint the full picture for you guys so you really understand. Like, this is why the fight got extended another year. This is why Drakus had to go out and fight Robert Whitaker and had to go out, and do an extra fight because the fight wasn't ready yet. The tensions were way too hot, and no one wants to push racial division or racial, war and animosity and stuff. But it is what it is. He comes back, he brings the title to South Africa, and now they have their first official title housed. The belt is housed in Africa, not owned by a migrant or a refugee or however you want to say it, or somebody who moved from another country. It's actually housed there, born and raised, Drakus in South Africa. So shout out to him. We always shout out every other country that wins stuff. So if we're going to, shout out Wei Li for being the champion of China and her bringing the belt to China and inspiration to the Chinese people. And we're going to talk like that to everybody. Khabib, creating a Russian pipeline where now all of these Russians, like about half the damn UFC, all the best fighters are from Russia, from Kazakhstan, or from somewhere in Dagestan or somewhere in that area, like Eastern Europe, almost close to Northern Asia. Really, Northern Asia is also in Russia. And then you got guys also like Kazmat Chimaev and Shavkat Rakhmonov, like these things. This is a pipeline. So you actually have to think about it. So, when Yao Ming goes to China, or from China, gets drafted to the NBA, now you have a whole bunch of people from China that think they can make the NBA. You understand what I'm saying? So now, same thing. China, Wei Li. Now you have Chinese girls growing up thinking, some of them, not saying all, but I'm saying some of them that are interested saying, I could do that. Wei Li did that. And you look up to them, and who knows, maybe they could one day meet and be their mentor and everything else and kind of pass it down. It's all about passing the torch. At the end of the day, it's about passing the torch. And Drakus may open the eyes of some South African kid that I could do this. I could be an athlete. I could be famous. I could work hard and make money and provide for my family. And at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to provide for their family, be safe, be healthy, and be happy. And he's doing something he loves. All of these guys, this whole card. There's not one guy on here that's like, oh, I fucking hate the UFC. I'm stuck at my job and blah, 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 blah. I mean, there might be, but God damn, you're willingly going in a cage to fist fight. So I hope you enjoy what you do. Well, yeah. So good luck to everybody. Good luck to Izzy. Good luck to Drakus. I'd like to see what Izzy does after this. Maybe it's a little retirement. He was walking in the background. He took off his gloves for a little bit. I think he wants one more. But if there's one thing that I know is the UFC doesn't let much people leave with a win. So just keep that in mind for his next fight, whatever that may be. I just am aware that most people lose their last fight. So next, we can talk about the W. W is back, which I'm very happy about. The Sun have Mabry now, and Mabry started the first game, went off at 17 points. I believe she had 3 threes. She was facilitating. Man, she was driving, kicking. She hit Bree Jones at the midi, and even Bree Jones hit the shot. I was lit. Last game had me hyped. Today, I believe Mabry's coming off the bench behind Dejanay. I'm not too sure why Dejanay didn't start on the comeback. Maybe she was sick. Maybe she had a little nagging injury. But we looked great with Mabry. And also, we looked great last year when Dejanay Carrington was coming off the bench. Right? We were one of the best teams in the league last year, the Connecticut Sun. That's my home team. And we looked amazing, but we needed some shooting. right? And we looked amazing also with Dejanay Carrington being the sixth man, coming off the bench, being the sixth man of the year. She came in second, but sixth man of the year for the Sun, Dejanay Carrington. And then now she starts, but we bring in a player who is better, who brings almost everything better than Dejanay, other than, I would say, speed. Mabry is not as fast as Dejanay. Transition, even some defensive coverages. Dejanay is better. But when you have Alyssa Thomas, you have Ty Harris, and you have Brianna Jones, even Bonner, you got defenders. You got people who could at least do something there. I wouldn't be so concerned on starting Dejanay, but I understand the chemistry issue. Dejanay and Mabry are like bitter rivals. Bitter rivals. I could show you 5 different clips of them getting in a physical altercation in a basketball game. I can't do that with anybody else in the league. They have real beef. Every time they play, it's smoke. I'm talking smoke. There isn't smoke like this in the NBA. Straight up. There is not smoke like this in the NBA. There might be they might not like each other on the low, whatever. But at the moment, there is nothing like this. This is Matt Barnes, Derek Fisher type stuff. This is beef. This is beef. I don't even know. It's definitely not over a girl, but it's beef. It's like, I'll drive however far it is to beat your ass if I got to. That's what type of beef this is. And yeah, she started over her first game. So now I'm like, okay, what the hell is going on in there? What's the vibe from Dejanay? Are we moving Dejanay? Like, is that a trade that we may have to do now because Dejanay's, turned off by not starting, and now her bitter rival took her spot? And I knew it from the jump that would be a problem. And I said it. I said, wow, Mabry's starting today. That's insane. Yada, yada, yada. And then game 2 with Mabry, Dejanay starting. So we'll see where it really goes. I'm nervous for it, just to be honest. I like Mabry there. I said this Chicago Sky should have blew up their team last year while they had more value. Kalea Copper, they could have got way more for Copper. And I believe they could have got maybe even a little more for Mabry, because the Mabry trade isn't really that good. They picked up salary dumps in a pick. It was the best trade ever for the Sun. They traded back. So the Sun traded their first round pick for the Sky's second round pick. Where do you think the Sun's first round pick is? End of the draft, right? Because they're the better team. There's 12 picks. The Sky most likely have a top 3 pick, and the Sun most likely have a bottom 3 pick out of 12. So 9 through 12. Now, you go to the second round. The Sky, same thing, 1 through 3 in the second round. So if this is it, right? This is where the Sky's pick is. First round pick. This is where the Sun's first round pick is. The Sky traded the pick that was here to get here, and then the Sun traded here to get there. So it's a slight trade down, right? But not far. It really isn't. A first round pick for a second round pick, it sounds crazy. But it's only about 4 to 5 picks back. Maybe not even. It could be the 12th pick and the first pick. They could be back to back. You understand what I'm saying? So the Sun necessarily didn't really trade back. They traded Mariah Jefferson with a bad ankle and didn't play her anyway. And a bad wrist. She had a bad wrist coming into the year, then a bad ankle a few games in. So you got Mariah Jefferson, who's injured, out, hobbled, overpaid potentially, and not outplaying Ty Harris for her position. She's not outplaying Veronica Burton for her position, now that we know. I will say Tiffany Mitchell's chips. Mabry, Carrington, all better options at the guard right now than what Mariah Jefferson was giving to the identity of the Sun. So now you trade a player who's not really giving anything for a wing, a 2-3, a shooting guard, small forward combo who shoots threes and play makes. You can't ask for a better situation than that. And then, what else do we have? I think we have one other thing happen in the W. What else happened in the W? Man, BG had like 2 points the other night. It was disgusting. Copper had 30. She's been looking amazing ever since coming back from Team USA. I think Copper needed it the most. Copper remembered, like, oh, I'm a badass. I could do this shit. So I'm glad she woke up. Because the Sun have been having problems scoring all year. They're reliant on Taurasi's 15 a night. And she can't give that, all the time. And her energy ebbs and flows. And where she scores from is different than where she used to score from. BG just looking slow, very lethargic, very careless at times. Copper, amazing. And now she's locked in again. She's like reinvigorated. I love to see that. There is some skepticism at what could happen in their power forward position. And they've actually even been playing Natasha Mack at the 4 now. And they're playing Mack with Griner. And that's not working either. They had Rebecca Allen. She's hurt. They got Sophie Cunningham. She's not a power forward. There's a lot of issues with how this team is ran and what they're doing. So I just want to take back what I said about the Mercury in the beginning of the year, because the Mercury don't look too promising to me. I love Natasha Cloud. I love Kalea Copper. Taurasi, Griner, I don't love when they're playing together. I think they're missing that glue piece, and it could be Rebecca Allen. It's just a weird situation, You got one 3-point shooter on the team. As good as this team sounds, you don't have shooters. You got Taurasi. You don't have shooters. Sophie Cunningham's good for like 1 to 2 threes a night when she's pulling. Rebecca Allen, good for 1 to 2 threes a night when she's pulling. But where is your volume 3-point shooter? Where is that other than Taurasi? Where is the threat from deep? And if Cloud can go in there, cut up a defense, try to play make and ball handle and drive, and who's the kick to? Is it Copper from 3 every time? I like Copper. That's not her best thing. She's an incredible player, top 20 player in the league. That's not her best attribute, is shooting. Taurasi, at this point in her career, it is her best attribute. Rebecca Allen, not shooting. It's being a glue player, doing everything else, all the intangibles, all the little things, hedging hard, really showing active hands on defense. She brings the energy. Sophie Cunningham, shooting, but it's a little bit of grit. It's just this little swingman type thing, just being a cog in the wheel. I'm talking volume 3-point shooting. You need that. Volume 3-point shooting is Kelsey Plum. It's Jackie Young. It's Mabry. It's Ionescu. It's Caitlin Clark. You understand what I'm saying? As volume 3-point shooting. Enrique even could get some shots off from the 3. I wouldn't say Lloyd. Lloyd is a volume scorer, but not a volume 3-point scorer. I think she actually, 4 out of the last 10 games, I think she's had 0 threes. She's not that great of a 3-point shooter. And then you got Skylar Diggins, who's not the best 3-point shooter either. Next to her and NECA, and they have their own shooting issues, but the one thing that they don't have is defensive and identity issues. That team knows what they are. You know why? Because they got badass Ezzie McBeggar back there at the center. She does everything. Everything you need her to do, to where everyone else has an easier job. Oh, Ezzie, you need to go spot up over there in the corner? She could do that. Need her at the top of the key? She could do that. She could hit that 3 straight away. She could hit that corner 3. You need her to set up on the opposite block so you could drive and maybe dump down when the help comes? She could do that. She could go in that dunker spot. She could hit the little midi. She could hit a 5-foot post shot. She's a play finisher, not a play creator, though. So don't give her the ball and expect her to create. You're finding her open and she's finishing the play. She's a play finisher, not a playmaker. And a lot of the people on that squad are playmakers. So it's actually really good that they have a small forward that is not really looking for too much. You got Vivi there. Nneka's at the 4 who grinds. She's a real star, but she works just as hard as anyone else on the team too. That's what's good about Nneka. Nneka's always been like that. 100% effort. Whether she's the best player or the worst player, it doesn't matter. Nneka's giving 100. She's crashing the glass. She's diving for balls in the air. She'll get hit in the air, fall on the ground. She'll get taken out in the air. She don't care. She goes for the ball. Always love Nneka. Then you got Skylar, of course, on defense. The team's dope. Love the Storm. I should have predicted the Storm were going to be the better team, not the Mercury. But I just love the bet on Diana Taurasi. But the more and more that you see from Diana Taurasi as like a personality trait, I can imagine it being really hard to win. Because she's still like alpha dog, fuck you, I'm the best, I'm this and that. But like when it comes to the court, she might be the third, fourth best player out there on her own team, not even on the court. Her own team, she's not even the second best player anymore. So like, how long can you keep that attitude up before you start to rub people the wrong way who are putting in that type of work? As much as she's done, she's paved the way. She's done a lot of things. I love Diana Taurasi. Consider her a top 3 player ever. Some people consider her the GOAT. She's definitely in the top 3. No argument. Something's got to give there. Something's got to change over there in Phoenix. They have a new owner, Matt Ishbia, so you can't say it's the old owner because everyone hated Sarver. They hated Sarver. They said Sarver's the reason. He's holding the team back. And you know what? What's his name comes in here? 2 years in a row, makes huge splashes, Matt Ishbia. Signs Mariah Jefferson, coming off her huge year in Minnesota, getting their first triple-double. Signs her to a 3-year, $500,000 offer. Incredible deal. Shout out to Mariah Jefferson and her family. Hope they're doing well in Chicago, not in Connecticut right now. And this year, he makes big-time trades for Cloud and Copper. And Rebecca Allen. Stole her from my son. So, like, you got Copper, Cloud, and Rebecca Allen. 3 starters. Rebecca Allen's hurt right now. And Cloud, I wouldn't even necessarily say underperformed. I feel like there's something up with the coaching. There's something up with something there. They can't score over 50 points some nights. That doesn't make sense. You have a 6'10" Brittany Griner. You have Kalea Copper. You have Natasha Cloud. You have the GOAT, but Diana Taurasi. You can't figure out how to score 50 points in 40 minutes. How? What's the answer to that? So there's a lot to figure out there. Not too sure why it's like that. And let's move on to the NBA. W's cool. Shout out Alicia Gray, by the way, winning the 3-point competition and the skills competition. That was really fun. I don't think I ever got to shout that out in the previous pods. I don't know why I didn't, but it crossed my mind right now. So shout out to them. And then, NBA. So we have some potential moves coming in this offseason, some potential questions. Will Kenny Atkinson stick with Jared Allen? He got a buzz cut. I'm thinking the buzz cut means something. I'm thinking the buzz cut means a trade. I'm thinking the Knicks should trade for Jared Allen. Imagine the Knicks with Jared Allen. You know? Hear me out. I know they don't have Hartenstein anymore. Mitch Robb gets hurt a lot. What do you want to do? I like Evan Mobley at the 5. Hope Evan Mobley eventually transitions to the 5. He'll be way better there. He's just not a good modern power forward. You know, like he just isn't. I think he'd be cool back in the day. People would love him. But he's not even as skilled as, players back in the day that played the 4. You think about Kevin Garnett. Think about what he was doing at the power forward position. Before YouTube videos and trainers and Drew Hanlon step back threes. Like KG was doing above and beyond. And Evan Mobley is still kind of stuck in his USC bag. So I just want to see more from Evan Mobley. He had times last year where he just started gunning threes and making them, and then there are times where he just refuses to take them, refuses to even step behind the 3-point line, and he just stays in the paint, passes, doesn't really look aggressive out there. I want to see more from Evan Mobley, um, and I hope more comes from him. Maybe Darius Garland is on the move. Something has to give that changes that team a little bit. But that team was still really good last year for what they were. They were always hurt. I think they only played 28 games together in total. So you could kind of catch the vibe there, right? You only played 28 games together, 82 games in a season, flip 28 with 82, opposite. What do you think is going to happen if they play 82 together? I think they can win 50 games. I like it. They'll definitely be over a 50%, over a 500 team. Um, what else? What else? What else? Celtics are most likely going to repeat. I'm just going off the top. I didn't really have much written for the NBA, but I do want to touch on it, of course, right before we close out of here. Um, Let me just think. Hawks, very concerned about them, and I think another trade is coming. You don't draft Reese Shea and keep DeAndre Hunter. You know, there's something in a mix there. There's something. There's some trade that we don't know about. It's about to happen. What else? What else? So yeah, we got Hawks, Pistons. I'm excited for the Pistons. I don't think they're gonna really be too lucky this year. I think it's another bad year for the Pistons. Ron Holland's going to bring some offensive punch, but it's going to come with some problems of shooting. Cade, I hope, is healthy. That's all that matters for Cade. I don't care if Cade even takes a step back skills-wise this year. If he looks more timid, if he looks anything, I'm fine with it. You know why? Because he's healthy. That's all he needs to do is just stay healthy and build a rhythm of who the player you are. Actually get a feel for it, not just like healthy for 20 games, you try some new moves, you get hurt. Like you need rhythm. And if he wants to get better and build over the years, he needs to be able to play for years to build that. So good luck to Cade this year, Jalen Duren, all the young guys out there, Asar. I think there's one more person out there that I'm rooting for the Pistons. Sasser? I like Sasser. The Bulls, we got Matas Buzelis next year coming. Shout out to my dog, big dog, Taz Buzelis. He's going to do some cool things for the Bulls. Nothing too special. He's going to be a role guy for the foreseeable future, but he's going to build into something really big. He's got Giannis potential. He comes into the league very raw, very skinny, very high IQ, and very well principled. Very comes from a very good family. That's what I'm gonna say. Very, very like family oriented. You look at Matas; he's always with his brother. He loves his sister. His sister and him have like a really cool bond. I watched their Ball Is Life. It's like a documentary on Matas Buzelis, and his sister goes to I'm not actually not too sure what college she's at right now. She played lacrosse, D1 lacrosse, and she would text her brother before every one of his games or before her games, and she would like just send like a motivational word or like some psalm, like a Bible verse or something like that. And I don't know. I just feel like they're very family oriented. I'm high on these family oriented people. I think they do well in the NBA because you travel so much and there's so much going on that if you have the wrong people around you, they could get in your head and they could really tell you things to, oh, you should be getting 15 minutes a night, not 2 minutes a night. That KCP can't even hit a shot. You see, he can't even play defense. And then you start saying to yourself, yeah, I'm better than KCP. This guy's a scrub. But then now you're then saying a guy in your own team isn't good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a slippery slope. It really is a slippery slope. So you just hope that you have the proper people around him that keep him with a level head. You just say, stay focused, keep working hard, you'll get there. Everyone gets it in time. So just stay patient, stay diligent, just hard work, keep your head down, don't cause no problems, don't come here, don't go partying just because you think, oh, I'm not playing tomorrow anyway, so I'm just gonna go get fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of pitfalls you could fall into, especially being a millionaire in the NBA with all the spotlight and everything else that you have access to. It's easy to fall into those traps. So that's why I always say the family-oriented guys are typically typically successful in the NBA. So good luck to Matas Buzelis. Rooting for you. And what other? There's a few other rookies that I really liked. Go to my mock draft real quick. We'll scroll through it. I got 4 more minutes. I want to close this out for 9:30. And here. I thought I had the screen share on. My bad. I was about to start talking, and then I realized it wasn't screen sharing. All right, so this is my draft night board. Yeah, rooting for Taz. Big time Taz. Sar, if you haven't noticed, like when you look at my draft projections, let me zoom in a little bit because I know sometimes it could be blurry or just really far. All right, it looks zoomed in enough. So you could also judge how I feel about a player by what player I give them a comparison to. Franz Wagner, Antoine Walker, Andre Karolinko. So what you see from this is you want to see that, okay, Franz Wagner, meaning he's a big wing with, some transition game, some hops, some like actual athleticism, can work on defense and can work on the shot, but it's there. You know what I'm saying? Antoine Walker, offensive bucket and a creative guy. I feel like he's seen another layer of the game that people didn't see at the time. He's remembered as a scorer, but he could facilitate. He could have been a point forward in today's era. I just think he was in such an awkward era of time where like you had people like Josh Smith, who was the worst 3-point shooter in the league, telling everybody needs to shoot threes, and everyone's like, dude, you're the worst. Stop. This is why we shouldn't shoot threes, because if we gun threes, we're gonna end up like this. To where I think Josh Smith's seen something ahead of the curve, but didn't know how to do it exactly. And I think Antoine Walker was the same way. Was he's seen a way to facilitate, but I don't think he necessarily seen that as the most effective way or something that like he could do efficiently. Then you get Andre Karolinko, defensive stud, roll guy, catch lobs, block shots from the three, can hit threes, can dribble a little bit, Like this is the type of player that you're getting at his peak. What we want and what we've seen at lower ranks. And I would compare Matas to these players. Then Alex Sarr. So I give Jaren Jackson first, and that's just more of like what he could be. The highest ceiling is probably a Jaren Jackson, a power forward that really can play center but shouldn't play center, if you know what I'm saying. Not the best rebounder. And slowly I whittled him down to a Christian Wood, someone who gets veteran minimums and backup center, backup power forward, kind of just floating around, this weird tweener that doesn't really do what anyone wants centers and power forwards to do. And then Vin Baker. Vin Baker had a pretty solid career. He was an all-star multiple times, but at the same time, he had his pitfalls. He wasn't the best defensively. There were other things with Vin Baker that didn't make him the best player he could be. Klingon, Tyson Chandler, former Defensive Player of the Year, also won a championship being a defensive anchor, just worrying about that, not worrying about anything else, just being a defensive anchor. And I think Klingon has the potential to do something like that, or he has the potential to be like Ivica Zubac, a really good big, an average to a slightly above average big man who really, offers threats to the opposing team in any way. Maybe not from shooting, but from almost every other way. Just a really good roller, really good. He comes off the screen well, great footwork, can jump high. Like he's got bounce. I don't know if y'all don't know about Klingon. Klingon got bounce. Here, Ron Holland. I give him the Rudy Gay Jamal Mashburn because, everyone in this class, I think if you had them play full court and everyone, like if you drop 60 players from this draft, all 60 players who got drafted into an open gym and you do pickup for 2 weeks, they're all going to come out of it that Ron Holland is the best player in the draft. That's how I feel. And that's how Rudy Gay was. Rudy Gay was always thought to be the men amongst boys when it was all men. You know what I'm saying? They called Rudy Gay Truck. He was 6'8", or is, he still is, not like he's gone. 6'8", about 240, 250, and literally would just barrel through people. Well, Rudy Gay and Ron Holland have a similar play style. And Ron Holland's not big. You can tell you that right now. You can see it. Skinnier dude, about 210. Not built like Truck, but plays like Truck. And then you got Jamal Mashburn, another guy who would just kill you from 16 feet in. You know what I'm saying? And look into some Jamal Mashburn tape and then watch some Ron Holland. I'm telling you, you'll see some similarities. A lot of dominance. Got some good stuff for Stephon Castle. I had another one, but everyone was mad at me because I put it, and I honestly I forgot. But I set one bar low because I do see a point where there is a chance that Stephon Castle. I think I said like Ben McLemore or something. I think I was on my first mock draft, and then my final one I took it off. Everyone was spazzing and calling me crazy. And then I watched a lot more tape on Stephon Castle. I even watched some high school tape, and it kind of sold me too. And I've watched him play basketball for UConn, and but just like watching more and more tape, you can convince yourself. And I want to say there is a slight asterisk on this. I might even go back and do a little edit and make sure I add Macklemore because he does have a little whiff of Ben McLemore to him. And then Reed Shepard. I'll finish it on Reed Shepard, or maybe we could go to Risa Shea. Yeah, we'll go to Risa Shea because he was the first pick. So I want to actually be held accountable for this. If I'm right or wrong, I want to be held accountable because I had him 8th. I didn't like him that much, but I knew he was still going to go first. Charlotte Hornets, Reed Shepard. I gave him a little bit of John Stockton, Goran Dragic, and then potentially Grayson Allen, more of just being like an off-ball type of role guy rather than an initiator of offense, a true starting point guard, something to fall back on because I think he did need that. He definitely had the chance of falling backwards. If you look at Reed Shepard, I mean, you can see in the picture, you can even compare hand sizes here with this defender. His hands look a lot smaller, which don't really convert well to the NBA. Also, with him, he was a walk-on necessarily. He was picked as a legacy recruit. His dad went to Kentucky. His dad was a solid player. And he was looked at more as like a walk-on legacy player. He wasn't really looked at a guy who was supposed to start his freshman year or even get minutes his freshman year. He was probably looked at more as like a redshirt guy. And now all of a sudden he's the 3rd overall pick for the Houston Rockets. So it just, gives you cause to pause, and you just don't know how that athleticism can translate. Plus, he did the fake arm trick. So the arm trick I'm going to wrap this up after this, but the arm trick in the NBA Combine is basically when they go to measure your arms, and so you could trick your vertical, you only reach like this. You don't fully extend. You only kind of just put your arms up, and you say, "Yep, that's it." So then your standing reach, let's say, is if it would be 8'5", and if you only like just put it up to this, it's 8'2". So then when you do the vertical jump, your vertical is 3 inches higher. So he basically made his arms look shorter to make his vertical look higher. He talked about it. So I know for a fact he did this arm trick. He didn't fully extend his arms, so his vertical looks higher. So he looks like a better athlete and not a better physiological athlete, more of like a muscular athlete. Interesting. It's very interesting that he put that ahead of being a longer armed player, but he wanted to be a higher vertical player, remembered as. So it's just a weird situation. This one right here, Nikola Topic. I loved everything I've seen from this guy. The one thing I think he's gonna have a problem with consistency. He has a little bit of a size issue. He's 6'6" with a 6'5" wingspan. He doesn't have the longest arms, and I think he could have some troubles in the league. But if I had to say anybody, I'd give him Sean Livingston and a Karis LeVert. That's what he reminds me of. A lot of creation. Sometimes you could even say like a little bit of ball stopping is the Karis LeVert side of things. But the great playmaking is where I see the Sean Livingston 6'6" point guard really can hit the mid range, 10-foot shot. He always knocks it down. And he's even shooting some threes too. So don't set him aside and say you can't do that. Right here, finally, 8th pick, Zachary Ritchie, 6'9" small forward out of France, and he was drafted number 1 overall, and the Hawks took him. He's got a lot of great defensive identity, and he shows effort on that side, which is very promising. He'll pick up your top ball handler if the coach wants him to. He'll go guard, your point guard. I wouldn't want him to go guard the point guard. I think that's a little ridiculous. Maybe in certain instances or certain plays, but like for him to like guard a point guard, as I've seen people talk about for the whole game, is a little stupid. It's not even realistic. But a player comparison for him that I have that I feel could be safe and also a very good compliment, Luol Deng is probably the closest to what I feel, but someone also that would be like modern would probably be more of like a Harrison Barnes is what I see. But yeah, I see a lot of Luol Deng in his game, which still gives space to make an all-star game and still makes space to make a lot of money. So that's what I think he is. I don't think he's going to be like a Paul George or like something along those lines, of Kevin Garnett, Kevin Durant, like none of that. None of that. What I think's going to happen is more along the lines of this. Maybe a one-time all-star, something like that. Guy could give you 17 and 5, 17 and 6, probably 2 assists, shoot really efficiently, and just be a good player. That's what I think Ritchie is going to be. But all in all, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. I told you it was going to be a shorter pod this week. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in next week to Too Generic. Ritchie will be back, and I know that's why you guys come. You guys come for Ritchie's takes, not mine. But all right, guys, much love, peace, and happy birthday, Ritchie. It's your Mamba year, 24. All right, peace.